Okay, so welcome, and now we're going to do some examples. And so the first thing is we're going to do a couple of things, and we're going to basically bring back from the other videos that we've done. So again, I hope you've been paying attention and taking notes, and this makes sense because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of the stuff that we've been talking about previously. So first of all, we want to find the reference angle of 225 degrees. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, first of all, 225 degrees, again, the reference angle is an angle between 0 and 90 degrees. Okay, so we want to find the reference angle for 225 degrees. Well, first of all, what quadrant is this in? Well, we should remember that, okay, 225 degrees is in the third quadrant because it's greater than 180 but less than 270, right? 180 and 270 are the two quadrantal angles. So we know that this is in the third quadrant. Okay, so now, so it's in the third quadrant, so what do? We take this angle and we subtract what? So this, again, goes back to the previous videos. We subtract 180, right? So it's in degrees, so we want to subtract off 180 degrees. Okay? And if we subtract off 180 degrees, this gives us 45 degrees. Okay? Now, 45 degrees is our reference angle. Okay. So that means that this is what we're going to use as our reference angle. Now, the next example, let's take this one step further. Now it says, so for this example it says, using your reference angle, find the exact value of the cosine of 150 and sine of 150. So in this example, we want to find sine and cosine of 150 degrees. Okay, so first of all, what's the reference angle? We need to find the reference angle. So again, so 150 is in the second quadrant. Okay, so again, this is where everything that we've learned before, we're kind of using it now. In our mind, we want to picture the unit circle because this is where everything comes from, okay? So first of all, I know this is in the second quadrant. It's between 90 and 180. So how do I get the reference angle? Again, visualize where the rectangle is, right? So that means it's less than 180. So to find the reference angle, I need to take 180 and subtract off 150. And that will give me the reference angle. So first of all, so that's what I'm going to do. So 150, I'm going to subtract that from 180, and that gives me a reference angle of 30 degrees. Okay, so now what does this tell me? It tells me that the sine of 150 is going to be the same, the sine and cosine of 150 is going to be the same as the sine and cosine of 30 degrees, except for the sine. The sine may change. Okay, so let's do that. So now we know, so let's find sine of 30. Okay, and then we'll deal with the sine. We'll find the sine and cosine of 30 degrees, and then we'll deal with the sine of the value. Okay, well again, sine of 30 degrees, again, this is one of those special triangles. Okay, so again, we should know this or be able to find it quickly. So again, sine of 30 degrees is opposite over a hypotenuse, and so this is going to be what? It's going to be 1/2. Okay, and the cosine, right? So cosine of 30 degrees is going to be what? It's going to be the square root of 3/2. Okay. And again, if you don't remember, you can derive it using the Pythagorean identity or go back to the previous video where I said, hey, these are these special triangles that come up, right? 30, 60, 90, and 45, 45, 90. So now, now we got to look at the signs of these, okay? Now let's go back to the second quadrant. So again, this is equal to y, this is equal to x, okay? So again, think about the first quadrant. This is in the first quadrant, Okay, this is calculated from the first quadrant. So, but we're in the second quadrant. So in the second quadrant, y is the same, but x is the opposite. So it's negative. So x is negative in the second quadrant. And so now we've got our answer for the 2. And we're done. Now, part B says, okay, well, gives us another example. It says, find the reference angle for 5 pi over 4. Okay, well, 5 pi over 4 is just dealing with radians. So let's do that one. So 5 pi over 4, so we want the sine 5 pi over 4, and we want cosine of 5 pi over 4. Okay, so now, again, we want the reference angle. So, this is going to be the same as what? Well, we know this is what? What quadrant is this in? Aha. So this is 5 pi over 4. Okay? So, what is the quadrant angles? So we got, remember, 90 degrees is pi over 2, 180 degrees is pi. Well, this is over 1 pi, right? But 270 degrees is what? Well, three halves pi, right? 3 pi over 2. Okay? But 3 pi over 2 is the same as 6 pi over 4, and this is less than 6 pi over 4. So this is going to be in the third quadrant. Okay? So we got that. So how do we get the third quadrant? Well, remember, in the third quadrant, we're larger than 180 degrees, right? So we're going to have to take this angle and we're going to have to subtract off 180 degrees, or in other words, we're going to have to take off pi to get a reference angle. So that means we're going to take 5 pi over 4 and we're going to subtract off pi, right? Well, how do we subtract off pi? Well, we're going to do 4 pi over 4. That's the same thing, right? And so if we subtract off 1 pi, then what do we get? We get pi over 4. Now you should realize that pi over 4 is 45-degree angle. So this is the same as sine of pi over 4, which is the same, which is 45 degrees, right? Equivalent to 45 degrees. And this is cosine of pi over 4. Now, the sine and cosine of 45-degree angles are both the same. It's the square root of 2 over 2, right? Again, I just know that. Okay, you can figure it out, you can derive it, but again, these are the ones that keep coming up over and over again. It behooves you to memorize these. Now, since it's in the third, now remember, these are reference angles, so again, they're going to be the same except for sine. Well, in the third quadrant, x and y, remember this is y and this is x. So that means in the third quadrant, x and y are both negative. So guess what? These are both negative, and we are done. That's it. It's that easy. Have a great day.